How are you on your preparation? You don't start it, so we don't need to see you. But I seen head bend down in the middle of this. I wonder why I'm showing that. No, not that I don't want to see him. We don't want to see him now, unmasking and remasking, fixing up his shirt collar. Yeah. I mean, we want to see him when he's all well together. We don't want to see what the process is. Sorry, don't start yet.
Recording in progress. Hi, good morning and good day, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Okay. So welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this final day of activities for our Intellectual Property Week celebration. As you know, every year we have this week of activities where we celebrate intellectual property and we promote and provide information as it relates to intellectual property in the various forms. Thanks for joining us. And under the theme, Create, Animate, Innovate, today we are having a career session. And we have for you some local and international presenters. I am seeing, I'm seeing Nadine on. Good morning, good day. Our first presenter this morning will be Miss Nadine Akaizimana. I hope that I am pronouncing that correctly, Nadine.
Akizimana.
Akizimana, beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful. Akizimana.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And I'm also seeing Miss Castell online as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Hello, everybody.
Right. We have a few more presenters. Mr. Wongsam is also here. I'm not seeing Miss Nesbeth as yet. I guess she will join us momentarily. And we will also have one of the presenters from the Charlie Mount High School further down in the process. Not sure, I'm seeing Dr. Goff online, our Deputy Director as well. Not sure if Ms. Bellamy has joined our legal Executive Director. Right, so Ms. Kizimana is the Youth Engagement Facilitator at the Office of the Assistant Director General of WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. Ms. Hakizimana is of Rwandan heritage, born in Botswana and raised in South Africa. She has a master's degree in international relations from the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa. She is WIPO's youth engagement facilitator and supports initiatives that help young people unlock their full potential to innovate meaningfully and to benefit from their ingenuity using the global intellectual property system. Nadine has supported education and skills development programs for migrants at PANAF in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. She did internships at ITU as well as UNCTAD, and thereafter became a fellow for ICT and gender mainstreaming at the People-Centered Internet. Nadine was also a WSIS youth campaigner, advocating for increased youth participation in global discourse around ICT for development through the auspices of the annual WSIS Forum. She has also done communications, marketing, and promotional work at the UNAIDS ESA and worked as a community coordinator at Connect AID, supporting sustainable development projects across the world, together with a team of young SDG community advocates. Ms. Sakaisimana, I turn the floor over to you to present to us your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Herman. You know, when I heard the topic of today's discussion, I was so excited because personally, I've recently undergone a major career transition. So I know firsthand that young people often face challenges transitioning from school to the world of work. And I strongly believe that as an international community, we have a duty to support young people through this challenging period in their lives. So whether they're entering the professional world or beginning their entrepreneurship or innovation journeys, Now, before I delve into the topic of the day, I want to set the scene for you all by telling you about the World IP Day celebrations that took place at WIPO headquarters on Tuesday, 26 April, which was organized around the theme of IP and youth, innovating for better health futures. People all over the world gathered virtually and in person to celebrate youth, especially young innovators who are finding solutions to public health challenges in their communities. This event was the first big moment in WIPO's youth agenda and a springboard to our future IP and youth programming. Together, we acknowledged the massive impact young people are making, whether as creators, inventors, scientists, or any of the many other roles that they take on. We reflected on how we can support this work and those who do it, especially those whose backgrounds are typically underrepresented amongst innovators. To that end, WIPO's youth engagement activities are centered around sparking curiosity and awareness about how IP can be an asset to youth in the many ways that they create change. We envision a future where young people are able to use entrepreneurial and creative means to create opportunity in their local contexts, rather than competing for what are often limited resources and limited jobs. For me, growing up in Botswana and in South Africa, I was constantly surrounded by the ingenuity of young people in informal contexts who found solutions to everyday struggles that they face, from inventing their own toys and games to finding creative ways to get access to electricity and the internet in their unserviced informal housing. So these kinds of innovations are ubiquitous in Africa and indeed in the Caribbean as well, where young people cannot simply wait for someone else to find a solution to their problems. Young people are critical assets for any country, and if they are supported, instilled with confidence and an entrepreneurial mindset, they can create decent jobs and become engines of economic growth and sustainable development. It starts with investment in primary school education, up to tertiary education, and even vocational education. Without this foundation, there would be limited or no human capital to create new technologies and commercialize them. And given the aspirations of many countries across the world to become knowledge-based economies, young people would do well to take an interest in intellectual property in order to easily adapt to the fast-paced and competitive environment that it would create. Understanding how to use the global IP system would allow young innovators to monetize their creative ideas. Young people in developing countries can play an important role in shaping IP systems in their home countries and to leverage the policy and regulatory gaps that exist in global IP systems, like in the traditional knowledge space, for instance, where there is currently no internationally agreed upon normative legal framework. Innovation and IP policy in particular should be informed by the specific technological, social, economic, and cultural solutions of the country in which it's going to be applied. So if young people in developing countries understand these complexities and the opportunities that they offer, they would be in the best position to advocate for their countries to calibrate their IP policies to suit their context, as there is scope to do so through TRIPS flexibilities. So pursuing a career in IP and IP-related fields can be challenging, but we will absolutely need young people, like many of you here today, to take an interest in IP in order to create the world we'd all like to live in. And these careers are exciting, putting you amongst people whose new ideas are going to change the world. And they can be incredibly fulfilling, as I can personally attest. However, I've heard from many that it can be daunting to enter the field, particularly as a young person without experience or expertise. Today, I want to tell you that the IP system is not nearly as daunting as as you may assume. In fact, IP is ever present in our daily lives. It's in memes, it's in social media, it's in books, it's in music, and in many other things that we can all relate to. And having a basic understanding of IP and a respect for the IP of others are important aspects of life that are unfortunately often left out of education curricula. Now, the international IP system provides developing countries with considerable flexibility on how to design their national IP laws, but provides very limited guidance on the various issues involved. So this is where you come in. The world needs intellectual property experts to assist developing countries in shaping the future of their creative and innovative industries. WIPO's Young Expert Program is an excellent example for young people to become leaders in the IP space. The Young Experts Program is a 2-year-long program at WIPO's Geneva headquarters, where 11 young graduates have the opportunity to work in various sectors of the organization to broaden their IP knowledge. Moreover, WIPO's Arbitration and Mediation Center provides a forum for young professionals interested in intellectual property and alternative dispute resolution, and the program is called ADR Young. There are also many other initiatives that WIPO currently runs and many more that are on the horizon. So I encourage you to keep an eye on the official WIPO website to find out more about them. Now, before ending, I want to talk directly to the youngsters who have joined this session today. Those who might be wondering what they can do today to be better equipped for a career in IP and innovation. Yes, you are young, but you are incredibly mighty. As young people, you have a finger on the pulse of what is next. Throughout history, young people have turned small ideas and actions into tangible impact with global ripple effects. I want to encourage you to dream big, to use your imagination, to ask questions, and to unleash your creativity. Next, I want to say, start now and start where you are. Look around you and respond to the needs of your community. Then hone in on your skills, on specific skills that will equip you for jobs of the future. Focus on STEM education and vocational training. I would also encourage you to visit your country's IP office, innovation hubs, knowledge parks, and youth networks in your area. Sometimes we as young people are restrained by golden handcuffs. And I say golden specifically because there is a sense of comfort with knowing that you still have time to work on your dreams. And many of you still have the support of your parents as a security blanket. So it really takes a great deal of courage and bravery to free yourself from them and start making major moves in your youth. And really, I'm confident and optimistic that we have the ability to completely change the world. However, leveraging this ability, it starts with you, me, and all young people across the world having the courage to see value in your ideas. So my wish is that you may have the courage to break free from your golden youth handcuffs. So in closing, if this session manages to inspire just one person to take action towards shaping, driving, and galvanizing global conversations around innovation for the greater good of our futures, then it will have served its purpose. We must empower young people everywhere to take full advantage of their creativity, of their resourcefulness and ambition in service of creating a healthier, sustainable, and more equitable world. I believe that the global intellectual property system can and will serve as a means to support future careers that many of us will take up. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. Quite informative. I feel your passion about this and our young people. And I hope that your message today will inspire them to grow and develop and to innovate and invent, you know. And I like the fact that you say that IP is present in our daily lives, and our young people need to fully understand that, and we must do our part in helping them to appreciate and understand that. And importantly, we have to encourage them, as you said, and I'm agreeing with you, encouraging them to dream big. All right, and your statement about them being young but incredibly mighty is certainly important. So thank you for that presentation. I'm not sure if you'll be able to join us for the duration of the activity today or this morning session, but we'll be happy to have you. If there are any questions, we will be putting them to you. Looking in the chat, not seeing any questions yet, but as soon as there are any questions available, we will present them to you. So thank you again. I just want to acknowledge a few persons. The Assistant Director General of JIPO, Mr. Edward Kwakwa, pronouncing that properly. Also, we have Alexandra Myra and Mariana Martini from Curry EU IPO, Curry IPI. So thank you for joining us. Next, we will have Ms. Castell doing the next presentation. Ms. Castell is the head of IP in the Digital World and Awareness Service, Observatory, European Union Intellectual Property Office, EU IPO, and she will again focus on children. As you know, it's the youth that we're focusing on this time around. Ms. Castell joined the EU IPO in 2013 to coordinate the design and implementation of awareness campaigns and activities on the value of IP and damages of infringements as part of the European Observatory on Infringements of IPR. In November 2018, she became head of the IP in the Digital World and Awareness Service in the European Observatory, thus covering copyright and legal activities, cooperation with intermediaries, as well as awareness and education projects. Before joining the EU IPO, she was previously head of the communication team in a public-private technology partnership between 2009 and 2013, and member of a communication unit in the European Commission 2006 to 2009. She opened the Brussels office of Public Consultants in 1997 and ran it until 2006. Ms. Castell, thanks for joining us. And
thanks a lot. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. I would like to share a few slides. I hope I can manage. If you see my slide.
Yes, I'm seeing it. Beautiful. Okay. Yes.
So I wanted to run you through what we have been developing at the EUIPO in Spain, where we have been addressing also youngsters and realized on the basis of several studies, which we started in 2016, we had another edition in 19, and the next one is supposed to go out in June this year, that the perception of youngsters regarding IPR and IP protection is quite tolerant regarding also infringement. and the behavior at the time of buying fakes or accessing digital content from illegal sources. And we realized, like, we also looked at the education system in various countries in Europe. And this was a study we did back in 2015. And we realized that across the different school systems, from primary and secondary, so from the age group of 5 till 18, there is basically no IP education in schools. And if we have some IP education, it's essentially in secondary level for specific subject matter such as technology, ICT, or designs. So this prompted us to look into the possibility to support the youngsters all over Europe with more knowledge, especially in the school environment. So we started reflecting on what we could do. And you see on the right-hand side, we did some testing in the European school we have here in Alicante. And we started to develop, on one side, some awareness initiatives online with the website Ideas Powered. And we gathered the community of youngsters on social media. So we opened a Facebook and Twitter account, and later on an Instagram. And the idea was not to patronize youngsters, but to link everything they like and they know, starting from music, sport, different fashion and technology, and link all those topics of relevance for youngsters to IP and IPR protection. And then we started to gather the younger generation in various formats, starting with identification of key influencers and vocal personalities online. We invited them in Alicante and discussed with them as well various examples, case studies, and how they could consider IP protection as part of their activities. And then it led us also to look into better ways to address youngsters. And we explored various initiatives in various member states. There are major gathering of younger generation. You see on the right-hand side, the LIP Summit in Zagreb, which is a gathering of 3,000, the summit. And then, of course, they had the opportunity also to build capacity and understand better. And then they went into the major event at LIP Summit to animate panels. So this was an interesting focus. And of course, you see as well examples of posts from participants participating in the event. And for us, the interest of this approach is that this is not us really triggering, passing messages. We are working with our community of Ideas Powered, closer influencers, but then they are also addressing their communities, their peers in their platforms and in the places where youngsters gather in the various countries. So we went to Zagreb, and then we will consider also going to some other major events in other countries in Europe to expand the narratives. So this is the example. Here you have an interesting engaged initiative which has emerged after a discussion with one of the younger participants in the Ideas Powered community. So the gentleman is a Greek fashion designer, and then he considered that the way we address young people on the topic of IP is basically too out-fashioned, and that we need to go in places where young people are when they listen to the topics, the creatives, and the different developments in various subjects close to their heart. So here you see, and then he wanted to get involved. So he started to come with a project, and which we tried to help to develop as part of our collaboration with the Greek IP office. And he organized actually a fashion show catwalk at the Athens fashion show in 2019. So if we have a short time to show the video, I think it's very telling, because it's I hope you will hear well. It's totally new, and it was quite something he also wanted to develop for the future. So I hope that works.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Right, we're not seeing the videos yet. Have you selected the video already, Ms. Castell?
We can see, we can stop here. It's
I didn't see it. I'm not sure if anyone else saw the video, but I wasn't seeing it.
We couldn't see.
No,
Right.
we didn't see it.
You couldn't hear. It's complicated. I don't want to lose time showing it further. But okay, let's see. No, I'm afraid I cannot. I cannot share my screen again. Let's see. Okay. So you see the screen, no, from the
Yes.
the slides. So
Right.
so this was a very interesting opportunity for younger designer and creators to be vocal about why it is important for them to protect their rights, their designs, and why they thought it would be worth to fight for their creativity and against counterfeiting and pirated content. So this is something new and interesting, and now the gentleman would like to develop this in other countries. So so for us, this is an interesting development. We also, as we did the study in 2015, we realized that we needed to have more materials, teacher training, and IP education in schools all over Europe. And not only at university level or later on when people are teenagers and entering the reflection on what to do next, but already at primary level. So really to build the capacity and the understanding of the younger generation from the school environment. And we started to develop Ideas Powered at School. So we aggregated a network of stakeholders involving, of course, education is a national competence. So we built a network of IP offices all over Europe, but also representatives from ministries of education and various stakeholders such as textbooks publishers, trade unions for teachers, and some other partners. And we started to build the project, and what you see on screen is actually a special web page where you can find dedicated materials and teacher training packs, which are of course free of charge in various languages, accessible by everybody. And the mission of the project was actually to encourage and enhance creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship. And now we have expanded digital engagement among young Europeans from primary and secondary and now tertiary education in Europe. So we've started to build a network, and of course this is a multi-stakeholder project. We developed materials, and they are published on the web page, accessible for everybody. We have various languages, and recently we had added frequently asked questions for copyright for teachers, because we realized, and this was the feedback we got from teachers all over Europe, most of them, they were unsure what they can do and or not do regarding copyright in the school, in the classroom. And so we decided to help them and try to address the main question they might have with answers, which would be user-friendly answers, of course, legally correct, so that they could be guided on the use of copyrighted materials. Of course, the issue with these materials, once we have created them and translated them in various languages, is to disseminate in the networks, disseminate in social media, and this is also what we have been doing over time. And now we are also entering into tertiary education. So you see that we are quite ambitious in the span of the project to also address tertiary education, design school, engineering schools, and various vocational training or university institutes to equip the younger generation with basic knowledge of IP so that they avoid pitfalls and problems, but also build on their creativity and use it in the best possible way for business development. And so we've seen also that whatever we do at national level needs also to be framed as part of the key competencies for lifelong learning, which are developed at European level. And what you see on screen is 4 key competencies we are developing in Europe. So we have digital competencies, citizenship competencies, entrepreneurship, as well as cultural awareness and expression. And these are the big roadmap for education in Europe, where all the member states have to follow those competencies for the next 10 years. And so they were revised. So we were quite lucky that in 2020-21, the digital competence was in the process of revision. And we managed to, and you see here the link, we managed to introduce copyright licenses and IPR elements as part of the digital competencies. So this is also an important umbrella to put IP protection into the curriculum and into the roadmap of the competencies for the younger generation in the various countries. So we've developed also materials for teachers. Teachers are the key player in the ecosystem. Without teachers, it would be very difficult to address all the population and all the youth in the various countries. And they expressed to us when we did pilot teacher training sessions that they were lacking materials which would be ready to use, which would be user-friendly, in the correct languages, translated, eventually modern and up-to-date, and especially also according to the different age groups. So we have started to gather all those materials. We grouped them, we translated them, we screened them, and you see the result on the link, which is on the slide, Ideas Powered at School Teaching Materials, where we had aggregated all available materials plus new one we created. And you can screen and scroll by age group, languages, and different topics. So, and this is of course free of charge, and you can download and use the materials. The recently added frequently asked question on copyright for teachers has been put online a couple of months ago. And this is also providing an important support to teachers, but also the students on what they can do with copyrighted materials or regarding copyright protection. So we have the ones for teachers. We have also the ones for consumers, which are also similar and equally useful in various languages and according to various national regulation. Of course, copyright is also nationally implemented. and we have revamped the page, which is on our website. So we organize on a regular basis, and this is something which we have been developing quite a lot during the pandemic. We had a lot of classes visiting our European agency in Alicante, Spain, before the pandemic. So we had to virtualize everything. But it came also as an opportunity to offer the possibility to more classes, different countries, different class in different languages, to visit the office and to be educated, to get knowledge and understanding of IP from early on. So, and this is expanding, and it comes with courses and IP basic materials. So we are also present on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with Ideas Powers. And here we also promote what we do, the initiative, the materials we are posting, and the various activities. And I think this is all what I wanted to share with you, and more to come in the future as the project is developing. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Yes, thank you as well, Ms. Castell, for your very enlightening presentation. You know, it is clear that we must focus on the youths and our young people to ensure that the IP information belongs to them. It is important, and IP in school is certainly an area that you know, greater focus can be placed on to ensure that our youths get the information to protect their intellectual property and just to know generally about intellectual property. What I liked about the presentation and the initiatives that you've been doing is the fact that you try to link, as you said, everything that the children or the young people will know to IP. So you're using fashion, you're using entertainment, and to make that link, to make it easier for them to understand the intellectual property and the role that it plays, and also using influencers. I just this morning, one of my colleagues here at JIPO, we were discussing that whole aspect of influencers to promote and to increase the interest of our young people in intellectual property and its value. So engaging. Thank you for that, Miss Castell. I want to acknowledge our Executive Director, Ms. Bellamy. I see her engaging in the chat already. If I may, there was a comment in the chat. As a country, I believe that we must think about teaching and integrating. Right.
We're actually doing it.
Right. So thank you for your response. That the Jamaican Intellectual Property is working with the Ministry of Education to achieve this. And clearly, this is a part of our mandate in promoting and educating the public as it relates to intellectual property. So thank you for that intervention, Ms. Bellamy. Ms. Castell, I hope you can stay with us. If you can't, we will understand, but I hope you can stay with us in case there are any questions later on from our participants. We would appreciate that. Thanks again. So as we move along with our presenters, we have Ms. Nesbeth, Janique Nesbeth, who will be speaking to the initiatives and activities that they are doing at the Charlemont High School. Ms. Nesbeth.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Nesbeth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Right. So you may go ahead with your presentation if you're ready.
Okay. Right. I just want to say thanks to JIPO for the invitation. JIPO is definitely, when you speak about an entity that is all-inclusive, looking at the different types of economies, the green economy, the blue economy, orange economy. JIPO embodies most of those concepts and is definitely working to achieve the various goals, the various national goals. And I really want to just take a second just to applaud JIPO for that. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so is the previous presenter made some very interesting points. I just want to say thanks for those interesting points. Before I begin the presentation, I want to acknowledge Ms. Lily Claire Bellamy, Executive Director of JIPO, Dr. Marcus Goff, Deputy Director of JIPO, and all esteemed guests. Really appreciate y'all being here. Previous presenter, I was really touched by that presentation. Just what I really admire is the approach to incorporating youth and just incorporating youth in various initiatives geared towards getting them to understand the importance of respecting the intellectual property rights of individuals, and also, just to give them that access to the information that will help them to reduce the incidence of intellectual rights infringement. So I just want to join Mr. Dawson in thanking the previous presenter. Okay, so as Mr. Dawson mentioned earlier, I am a teacher at the Charlemagne High School. Just give me a second. Right, I'm a teacher at the Charlemagne High School. I am also head of the visual arts department. At the school, I teach animation and game design, digital media, and visual art. And this week we have joined JIPO to celebrate Intellectual Property Week. So I've partnered with the school's librarian, Mrs. Richards Lamont, and all our lessons this week are geared towards sensitizing students about the importance of recognizing the importance of respecting the intellectual property rights of others, and also steps that they can take to protect their own intellectual property. And here we have just a short clip from the school band. Our school band enters the JCDC competition every year. And so this is just a short clip. Okay. Seems that there is an issue. I'll just move on to the next slide.
Right.
But our students are very talented. Just speaking to them, and let me just be frank with everyone. Let me just put everything into into this context. Our students And all of us, we went through a rough 2 years. The COVID pandemic, it hit us really hard. And it has, because of what we went through, you know, people being in the lockdown, Mr. Dawson, Miss Bellamy, with people being in lockdown, you know, people's perspectives have changed, and the students were not exempt from this. They had to refocus. They had to ask important questions. They had to ask important questions about, you know, what it is that they want to do in the future. And during this time, we engage the students in a program that is called the We Animate program. We got permission from the principal, Mr. Garth Gale. He's a principal at Charlemont High School, and we got permission in 2020 to engage the students in that program. And it gave the students an avenue to express themselves. We found that so many of them were YouTube creators. Many of them were game developers. There were some musicians that, you know, that were discovered during that time in the group. The group has a total of 128 students currently. And there are 10 mentors that are part of that group. JIPO is also one of the group's mentors. Okay, I'm just bringing up the presentation again. So JIPO is one of the group's mentors and has given us the opportunity to, you know, partner with them. All right. Now, it's important for teens, for the youth, to have positive role models, to have mentors. And as I said before, we have a number of mentors, which include one person from the Office of the Prime Minister, who is an animation specialist. There are also studio owners who are in the group. There are university lecturers and so on. All right. So it's really important for the youth, especially in rural parts of Jamaica, where sometimes they're not getting the role models who are going to be going to the university, who have studied at the university level. They're not seeing many successful examples of young men and young women who are making strides, especially in the creative industries. Why focus on the youth? Why focus on the youth? I know it's a cliche to say that the youth are our future, but it is the truth. If we do not focus on the youth, we won't have a good future to look forward to. We will be in retirement, sitting in our rocking chairs and be afraid to step outside. And I'm really happy that the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office has decided to focus on the youth. At-risk youth. Why focus on at-risk youth? The We Animate group focuses on at-risk youth because a number of crimes committed in Jamaica are committed by that age group, people between the ages of 12 and 25. The statistics show that. In 2019, I worked at the Correction Detention Center, the Juvenile Detention Center rather, for Juvenile Detention Center. And there I saw so many students. I saw so many young men who, you know, they could they look like a student, like they could be a student in my class and they were incarcerated. All right. Now, let us just look quickly at intellectual property, the intellectual property world as I knew it back then. When I was 17, that was the first time I went to JIPO. I have told this story many times. I was wearing my jeans, I was wearing my sneakers and a t-shirt, and I stepped in, and the JIPO team actually sat and explained to me the different processes to follow to protect my intellectual property, even though at the time I was not able to, because I wouldn't have the money at the time to, complete the processes. But I must say that when most persons think of intellectual property, they're thinking of an archaic world, a world with digital immigrants, people who, with gray hair all over, these are the only people who protect their intellectual property, huge business moguls, huge names that we'll see on the news, in the news. And many times my students will say to me, "Miss, this is not for me. This whole thing about protecting my intellectual property is not for me." And so I really appreciate the emphasis on intellectual property this week, because we get to emphasize the importance of protecting intellectual property, and that indeed it is for the youth. Digital natives, my students, they're in their gadgets all the time. They're on their gadgets all the time. They're on Facebook. No, they're not on Facebook. They're on TikTok. They're on YouTube, Instagram. They're the digital natives, and they are part of what is an emerging economy where all the wealth is being made online. And that is one important reason why the youth should be incorporated in these activities. IP and youth, innovating for a better future. All right, let's go to a quick icebreaker activity. Let's do some mathematics. Can you do this math with us, with me? All right, so what do you see here? Can anyone tell me what can you see on the screen?
Well, we're seeing someone make it look like they're on their phone.
Right.
Letters IP below.
Okay. All right.
So you're standing on IP, I imagine, or standing over IP.
Okay, so this image represents what I said earlier about the what most people think about when they think about intellectual property. They're thinking about the big names, the huge manufacturers. These are the ones with the TM beside their logo, and everyone is saying JIPO or intellectual property, protection is just for these people. I am a little man over here. I don't need to pay attention to this. I cannot afford it. It doesn't apply to me. And also the youth have a similar idea. All right. So what are we seeing on the right of the screen? All right, we're seeing a young person, cartoon character depicting a young person taking a selfie. These are the new business people. My students go around with their selfie sticks. they're recording themselves while they're playing video games. They're making money on YouTube by uploading their videos. They're getting a lot of followers. I mean, this young man in my class, his parents always complain he's constantly playing video games. And then he showed me where he made 2,000 US online by posting the replay of his games. And he's he's third in the world. There's this popular game called PUBG. So he entered the tournament, the global tournament, and he's ranked third in the world. The common denominator in this equation is intellectual property. So the huge businesses create intellectual property. They have the means to protect their intellectual property. They have access to the information, they have their lawyers and everything on speed dial. And they're the youth. They create intellectual property as well. And as I said before, they're the new entrepreneurs. They're the new business persons. No, there can be a partnership between the youth, and there can be a partnership between, these huge businesses and the youth. There can be a partnership between JIPO and other entities, similar entities, and the youth, right? So if all three, so the huge businesses will have the capital, the banks will have the capital, then we have the young creators, and we have JIPO there, providing part of the legal support for them. I think that would be a beautiful partnership. All right, and of course, before I spoke about this image, not only represents colors on a color wheel, but it represents different economic models. And current models are being adjusted, especially, with COVID-19 and all the realities of being online. But the main goals that most of these have in common are sustainable entrepreneurship and collaboration. And if the youth collaborate with JIPO and similar entities, they will be able to monetize their works. Okay, now I mentioned earlier about at-risk youth. All right, so in St. Catherine, Charlemont High School is located in St. Catherine, and we're surrounded by communities that are depressed, economically depressed. They're not garrisons, but many persons depend on agriculture for their survival, and that is not always feasible. And when I was a farm teacher, you will be taking up, doing what is called a census. And, you'll have to get information from each student, how many persons in your family are working. And there are so many households where there's no one in that family is working. That is why I thought about this initiative, the We Animate Jamaica for Teens initiative. And when this idea, when I came up with this idea, I immediately ran to my mentors. I have some mentors at JIPO. I can call them at any time. There are also mentors who are, at the university level, studio owners, animation studio owners, and so on. I immediately ran to them in 2019, and I said, listen, we need 2020, I said, listen, we need to do something for the young people. The statistics, Mr. Dawson, from gathered by the Ministry of Education as it relates to the number of dropouts at the secondary level, it's alarming. And the We Animate group, with its 128 members from 12 different parishes, it provides an outlet for teens. Many times teens do not have, they don't feel, their voices are not heard. They're not able to voice their opinions. There's no platform for them to be heard. And they're in a space where they can benefit from the expertise of these different mentors. I'm going to share quickly just some of what has been done. Okay, before I get into that, these two images show our We Animate members. I think you're seeing one person here and a male here. So both of these students are a part of the Charlemont High School family. And so what they did, or what we did as a group, they went into the primary school. I know Jericho Primary, so we partner with Jericho Primary, and I know that JIPO does as well. So we went into the schools to expose the students to digital art. And, we spoke to the teachers. It was specifically the grade 6 class. And there's a teacher in that class, Mr. Martin. And Mr. Martin has been working closely with JIPO, I think maybe last year or something like that. But we had conversations about, how to just impart this information to the students. And that is some of what we did when we went to the Jericho Primary School. All right, these are some of the pieces done by students in the We Animate group. Now, Mr. Dawson, you'll hear me calling your name from time to time. It's because as a visual person, I'm seeing you. So I'm not necessarily just picking on you. Okay, so the students came into the group and they were just drawing a lot of Japanese characters. And they were not, these images don't represent them. And there's so many, there's a lot of conversation about representation in the media, and that's part of part of the national goal. It looks at students being represented. When you look at the curricula at the high school level, students have to be exposed to the culture that our previous speaker spoke about. They have to be exposed to their culture and also be able to express themselves. And so it took some time, to be honest, to get them to show themselves with the thick lips, the melanated skin, the curly hair, or the kinky hair. All right, but we managed to get them doing this, and this was done this year for Black History Month. All right. So as I said before, the group provides teens with an outlet to express themselves. When they started in the group, no one was talking. I had to be posting all the time, and the other mentors, I think some of you know Raw Dunkley. He's one of the group's mentors. Kevin Jackson lectures at VTDI and some of the other universities. Robert Reed. We had to be encouraging the students to speak, and for those who were not comfortable using words, they could share images. And these images are very expressive. We allowed them to express, feelings of hopelessness. It was a pandemic. There were a lot of dark images coming out, and then at the same time, we had to say, okay, guys, even though you want to express the darkness that's inside, you can also share with others the light. that is possible. All right, some of these drawings are done by grade 7 students. So we have, there are students in the group from grade 7 to 13. All right, so as part of the Intellectual Property Week activities at the Charlemont High School, students had to do a number of projects. They had to do a poster designs, photography, and so on. I think we have a few things here to share with you. So this is a poster, that was sent out in all the WhatsApp groups. And this was designed by Akelia Blackwood, student. Okay, is this the end? All right, it seems, no, we're not at the end. All right, I just have a few more, things. Do I have another minute, Mr. Dawson?
Yes, certainly, Ms. Nesbitt, you may go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I was really impressed with the previous presenter. I am so sorry to refer to you as previous presenter. I just don't want to, make any mistakes with your name. So the previous presenter spoke about what is happening at the secondary level and the fact that if intellectual property is taught, it is taught, in technology subjects, ICT, or design classes, and that is her experience. So we had a similar situation in Jamaica. Let me say had a similar situation in Jamaica. There have been, some indirect initiatives. For example, the curriculum, the national standards curriculum, there are some strands in that curriculum that speak to students being able to demonstrate an understanding of how to respect other people's intellectual property. So at least I think that is a start. Right now, I'm gonna just share with you. So I spoke earlier about the teacher that I'm partnering with this year, Mrs. Richards Lamont, and this is a lesson plan that she had put together. So what we did was we collaborated this year, and we wrote our lesson plans, intellectual property, based on intellectual property. And she teaches research methods. I'm trying to bring it up so that you can see it. But in that lesson resource, there is a story that she shared with her students about intellectual property. And we find that storytelling is a very important method to use when speaking about intellectual property. All right. There was also, hold on, I'm sorry. There was also, there's also a student resource. So what you're looking at right now is a Google Classroom that was set up for IP Week. So students, not just our students, but all students could get access to this. The link was shared with some students already, and we plan to share with others. And so this is the platform that we're using to share information about intellectual property with students at the high school level. All right, so there are links for JIPO's videos here. So students who went online, they would have seen this video from World Intellectual Property Day. there is also there is a story, as I said, that was posted by Mrs. Richards Lamont. There's a quiz. Let me see if I can find just a sample of it. I know we're out of time. All right, so there's a link here to JIPO videos. JIPO has a beautiful YouTube channel. The students I find that the students, when there's especially this, talking about using personalities to spread the message of intellectual property. JIPO has a video on YouTube that I send the students to this all the time, because in 3 minutes, they get a summary of intellectual, what intellectual property is and how to protect it. So that video is there. There's a PowerPoint presentation on logo as a form of intellectual property. So this is for our design students. There's an intellectual property quiz. It's right here. I hope this doesn't cause any problems. And also we had a number of students. All right, so this is what the quiz looks like. All right. So each of these questions has a mark assigned to it. And so it's really good because it's kind of a self-marking tool. Teacher doesn't have to go in and physically mark it. The grades are available once the student submits the work. All right, I just want to share real quick from a story that was written by one of our students, two of our students, Chloe McLean and Leanna Johnson, Two Peas in a Pod, a story about two girls who love to draw and who found that their work, their idea, their drawing, it was someone took credit for their drawing, and they're just really upset about it. They shared their concerns with their teacher, and the teacher was able to explain how they can go about and protect their intellectual property. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dawson. But just final sentence on IP and youth. I find it difficult because, let me tell you, I don't know if it's okay to say that I have a love affair with JIPO. I do have a love affair with JIPO. I love the fact that JIPO loves people, right? The P in JIPO for me stands for people. JIPO loves people. And from my first experience at age 17, I got 3 brochures. And when I started teaching, those were the 3 brochures I was sharing, even when intellectual property wasn't a topic, in any of my classes, Okay. And it's trying to just focus on adults who are already, they're already set in their ideas, if, for example, if they think it's not important, it's difficult to change their minds, but it's so much easier. It's so much easier to reach the youth, and in no time at all, in a few years, they become adults who will eventually shape the future. So I really thank JIPO, I applaud JIPO for this initiative, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Nesbeth. It's actually great to know of the work that you and your team are doing at the Charlemont High School. I mean, the We Animate Jamaica project certainly is a great initiative, and reaching out to the youth in general, at-risk youths, yes, but in general to the youths, of this country is very important to engage them as it relates to intellectual property, their understanding of it, and the protection of intellectual property. And we at JIPO here, we are always, appreciative and willing to partner with the institutions to promote and provide information as it relates to intellectual property and intellectual property rights. So thank you again, Ms. Nesbeth. Running out of time, but next presenter is Chadoa Blackburn from Charlemont High School. I believe that person, student is to present as well. Okay.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, we're seeing a presentation. If you want to put it in presentation mode.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we're seeing it.
Yes. So this morning, I'll be presenting on how to incorporate your intellectual property into your work. So there are a number of ways you can incorporate your intellectual property into your work, with some examples being copyright, trademark, patents, and industrial design. So what exactly is copyright? Copyright is the intangible property that is the result of creativity and also refers to the creation of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce. What is animation? Animation is a method in which figures are manipulated to appear as moving images. In traditional animation, images are drawn or painted by hand on transparent sheets to be photographed and exhibited on film. How do I incorporate intellectual property in my animation? When doing an animation, I prefer using original reference images. In doing this, there is less chance of using someone else's work, and in order for me to become a successful animator, I have to ensure that I do not infringe on anyone's intellectual property. As you can see to the side, I use myself as a reference image and drew a character of myself. So that character that you're seeing to the side, I did that of myself. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's an animated character of Mr. Blackburn.
Well, that's actually me, sir.
That's you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So moving on to the next slide. So copyright is governed by the Copyright Act, and separately at common law, copyrights protect original works, performances, broadcasts, and communication signals. Works can include artistic, dramatic, literary, and music works. And as you can see, these were some of my arts work that I did just out of spare time. Yes. So moving on. What are trademarks? Trademarks are the act, and separately at common law, trademark protects the marks that a person uses to distinguish their goods and or services from others in the marketplace. Marks can be a word, sound, symbol, drawing, shape, or packaging, color, or any combination of those listed examples. For example, trademarks include such as KFC, McDonald's, and Coca-Cola. These are examples of trademarks. How do I incorporate trademark in my animation? For example, I ensure that I first do in-depth research on what I'm about to create to make sure that the idea is original. Then I would create my logo and send it out. Yes, as packaging. It is important to trademark your logo so that no one else can use it or infringe on your IP right. That would be intellectual property right. So as you can see below, that's my first name and my last name. That's my studio. Hopefully in the upcoming future, I can create it. So I created my logo from now so that in the future, I wouldn't have to go over it again. And hopefully to register my logo. All right, moving on. Hold on. Just give me a little second. So how do I implement copyright in my animation? So as you can see below, I drew an interior environment design for my animation, and I would have to copyright it so that no one else could steal my interior design. And if anyone did, they could be charged with copyright infringement. In the process of doing my animation, I have to consider all copyright laws. For example, I correctly reference my works to ensure that there was no plagiarism that occurred. So say that I was to use someone's original piece, I would first have to get their approval by using proper referencing techniques. How do all of these intellectual property rights protect my animation, and how can I use these to help me in the future? So hopefully when I become a successful animator, these will help me to safeguard my works from persons who wouldn't like to create their own storyline in their characters and different environments. So I would have to use all these laws to protect my work from anyone who would want to steal them. And thank you for having me here. And also, I would like to thank JIPO for their webinar that they had on Wednesday. I learned a lot from their presentation.
Right.
And I thank you again for having me here.
Thank you as well.
Please, everyone, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Blackburn, for enlightening us on the work that you're doing, and certainly your knowledge as it relates to IP. Charlemont is doing great work. Mr. Blackburn is a sixth form student at Charlemont High School, and certainly he wants to pursue a career in computer programming or animation. So continue, Mr. Blackburn, on the path that you're under, and wish you all the best in your studies. All right. So continuing with our presentation, we have our own resident patent expert, Mr. Jason Wong-Sam. He is the assistant patent manager at the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, and he'll be speaking to you about intellectual property in relation to patents. Mr. Wong-Sam.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Just let me set up my presentation. Let's see. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So everybody already did such an articulate job on presenting about intellectual property. So what I'm here today to do is really just encourage you guys in intellectual property. So the first thing, everybody already highlighted what is intellectual property, right? So really intellectual property really is the creations of the mind, as Mr. Blackburn just so eloquently articulated, right? And the other things that we would like to highlight is that intellectual property is an asset, just like how your car or real estate is an asset or your bank account is an asset. Intellectual property is an asset. This is something that you have to remember. Just like any other asset, you have to protect it, right? So intellectual property really is an intangible asset that is very important to your businesses. And you guys at Charlemont are doing some wonderful work. And I really want to commend you and your teacher, Ms. Nesbeth, on the jobs you're doing. It is really encouraging, right? So it is really important to your growth. And this is why we protect intellectual property. We have to look at the role of the IP office in all of this. And JIPO really does have the mandate for administering all intellectual property systems. And the JIPO mandate, on top of administering the IP systems, is to encourage you guys and educate you guys on IP. So we're trying to do that as best as we can so that the future generations can take advantage of the intellectual property that we have, right? And I'm not trouncing on Mr. Blackburn's thing, but he did speak to the various areas of intellectual property, which are basically copyright, trademarks, patents, industrial designs, geographical indications, and traditional knowledge. So JIPO has mandate over all of these critical areas of intellectual property, and we do administer all of these things. So intellectual property really has different areas, and the reason why is because different areas apply to different things in life. So you have inventions relating to patents, you have brands relating to trademarks, and you have designs relating to industrial designs. You have copyright relating to broadcast and of events and programs and anything artistic. So in a picture to the right of the screen, you'll have a series of intellectual property. You'll have the ball that had a particular chip in it that had useful technology to record if a goal was scored. You have the football shoes, which has a design, and it also has a trademark, which is Adidas. So you're looking at several intellectual property in one item. You always have several aspects of intellectual property, right? So why intellectual property? Because intellectual property really is encouraging your creativity. It protects your creativity. It gives you fair reward for your creativity. This is why you want to protect intellectual property, because you want to, the reason why we create is that we want to earn and we want to benefit from our creativity. That's why we want. And then when you start to create, you want to have that goodwill, that generate that goodwill. So once upon a time, I don't know if anybody realizes that Apple wasn't a very big brand in the computer world, but now Apple is the world's largest brand. Those are the things why we create. So you might start out small, but then your business will grow until it becomes a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, right? So this is why we create it. This is why we protect our intellectual property. We really protect it to stop others from using our intellectual property, and we want to be able to prosecute anybody who uses it without our authority, right? So this is why you can, if you do this, then you'll be able to benefit from your intellectual property. This is why we want to encourage you to register your intellectual property and to continue to use your intellectual property, because it starts out, your brand might be small in the beginning, as Ms. Nesbitt said, but then it will encourage you to grow, and as your business grows, your intellectual property grows with your business. So that's why you want to protect intellectual property, right? So you want to use your intellectual property as an intangible asset, right? So you need to say that, hey, my intellectual property is going to grow and it's going to help me to exploit my creativity. It's going to help me to build my business. That's why you want to protect your intellectual property, right? Providing access to collateral. So once you have your intellectual property, you can leverage your IP. And this is what you want to do. You want to use your IP to leverage, to get money for your business, to grow your business, or you want to leverage your IP to help your business to be useful and to help it to grow in way beyond you could ever imagine. But if you just have a brand and you don't leverage it, then you just have a brand, right? So really, intellectual property is really useful to help you generate income for your business. And this is why we want to encourage you to go forward and grow the intellectual property that you have, right? So the value of an asset, really, why you want to have this asset? You want to help, it can be used to get business transactions. You can amalgamate your business with another business. So you sell your business to someone else who might be useful in your technology. This is why you want to leverage your IP. So you want to get into a licensing agreement where you will license your innovation and your creativity to somebody, and they will use it and they will pay you to use it. So you don't necessarily have to go through and do all the work yourself, right? You might want to assign or transfer the rights to your IP. So you out and out sell it like a car or a house, and then you can just get a lump sum payment for that creativity, and you can go on to creating other things, right? Somebody else, you might want to purchase somebody's creativity to incorporate in your own business, but then you have to leverage that IP. So it's all about leveraging IP. And you want to, probably, as I said before, you want to have mergers and acquisitions. So you want to acquire different areas of intellectual property to help your business to grow. This is why you want to leverage IP. So it's all about leveraging the IP that makes it necessary for you to make use of the IP. So it's all about making use of the IP. So it's wonderful to have the IP, but you also have to make use of the IP. And what we're encouraging you guys to do here, you're doing wonderful work with the creativity, but we want you to make use of the IP. So when you start making use of the IP, you start collecting royalties. So these are the things which you start doing when you leverage your cartoons or anything that you use, you start leveraging that IP, right? You can distribute technology to other people for them to use, and they can use your
in progress.
Okay, are you still seeing my screen? My screen is not up, right?
No, I'm not seeing the screen.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys seeing my screen now? You still seeing? You're not still on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, so yes, so this is the last slide. It's a good thing. The licensing you really want to, what I really want to say is just that you have to license your product, you have to commercialize your intellectual property. Without commercializing your intellectual property, there is no gain. So the idea is you want to make money from IP, you have to protect it first, then you have to employ the IP. And that's the importance of what I wanted to say to you guys today and be encouraging to you today, right? That's my conclusion. So basically, really, that was the conclusion, right? Protect the IP and then, protect it. Then you can help create, when you create your thing, it creates support for yourself and your community. This is why we do IP. Thank you very much for your attention. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I will revert back to the chair.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Mr. Wong Sam. Right, essentially, your presentation, is to enlighten us on the value in creating and protecting, as well as leveraging our intellectual property or the intellectual property. And I'll just sum up what you have said in just 3 words: create, protect, and earn from your intellectual property. So that is the message we want to convey this today. Finally, we have our executive director, Ms. Little Bellamy. She will be launching the IP children material that we have. So, Ms. Bellamy.
Thanks so much, Mr. Dawson. Thanks for the wonderful job you've been doing as moderator. It's so good to see you on this side of the screen. So I think this is your debut for IP Week as a moderator. Am I correct?
It is, certainly.
Well, now you're going to become a staple. So thanks, Mr. Dawson, for the excellent job you have been doing. I want to acknowledge and thank the Assistant Director General of JIPO for joining us earlier this morning, Edward Kwakwa. Also, Ms. Claire Castell from the European Union Intellectual Property Office, Nadine Hakizimana, the Youth Engagement Facilitator. I hope I did not destroy her name totally. And I thought she really conveyed an important message. And I hope everyone who falls in the age group will consider joining the Youth Facilitator Program at the World Intellectual Property Organization. I'd also like to acknowledge our other presenters, Ms. Janique Nesbeth from Charlemont High School, Mr. Chodowa Blackburn, and also Jason. I think we have had a really good and informative and innovative session this morning with the focus on youth. The theme for this year's Intellectual Property Week, IP and Youth Innovating for a Better Future. And this ties in well with the 60th anniversary celebrations of Jamaica, which the theme for that is Reigniting a Nation for Greatness. So our IP Week theme and our theme for our 60th anniversary coincide. But we're really running out of time. So it's my pleasure to launch the Intellectual Property for Children material, which will be on the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office website. And now we will have an opportunity to see the examples. So could we see them now, please? Thank you. Can
Right, so this is the website.
And so okay, thanks, Mr. Dawson. If you could walk us through it.
Right, I think Mr. Hope is doing it. He's on the website and he's just now showing one of the videos that we can have access to from our website. So we have created a children's tab, basically, so children and other users can look at it. So it's an IP for Children tab, and it has a lot of videos on it so that we can engage our students and our young entrepreneurs. Right, so YouTube, what is a patent, what is a trademark? It has a number of different items. So this is our IP for Children tab that persons can access and find useful information about IP, JIPO, facts, IP owners, your rights. So this is a wonderful initiative by the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office in ensuring that the material is in a way that our children and young entrepreneurs can obtain IP information in a way that is understandable by them. So wonderful initiative here. Mr. Bellamy?
And I just want to acknowledge the work of our Copyright and Related Rights Directorate, who were quite instrumental, along with IT, in having that IP for children. Well, for those of us who are not savvy with the language, we would say that tab for IP for children. So we would encourage parents and teachers and guardians to encourage your students and children to visit the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office website and click on the IP for children, where the information will be easy for them to understand. So we thank you for joining us today, and thank you. I'm going to turn back over to Mr. Dawson, who will share with you the closing remarks. Thanks again, Mr. Dawson.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bellamy. So, I mean, the wealth of information that has been shared today is just tremendous. We have gotten information from different persons, from local and overseas. The presentation by Ms. Hakizimana set the tone and started the day off in terms of the focus on the youths. And it was just wonderful to hear when the practitioners and the stakeholders have put in place the necessary tools and resources to ensure that the youths are getting the information as it relates to intellectual property. So we're grateful for that. Certainly, Ms. Castell and her presentation on what they're doing in Europe, that's wonderful. And our own Ms. Nesbeth, as it relates to Charlie Mount High School, great job in terms of the We Animate project and what it is doing, reaching out to the at-risk youths and just giving youths that platform to express themselves. You know, as she said, we're in that age, you know, the digital native is what she referred to. I mean, that's beautiful to see how our young people expressing themselves, YouTubers, game developers. It's a new way of life. Technology is all around us, and it's wonderful to see them embracing it. Mr. Wong Sam, thank you for your presentation, and Mr. Blackburn, thanks you for your presentation as well, joining our director in expressing thanks to you. So we're at the end of IP Week. You know, it has been a wonderful experience for us at JIPO, and we continue every year to do our best to reach out to the community at large and to provide information as it relates to intellectual property. Thanks to our staff for the work that they're doing. Ms. Bellamy congratulated today and commended the copyright unit. Thankful for that. And thanks to all the participants and the presenters throughout the week. And for those who logged on today, we're grateful to have you with us. And we look forward to continue working with you. On Sunday, there will be a newspaper supplement in the Sunday Observer. So we look forward to that work. Also, we'll be having at 2 p.m. today, we ask for persons to join us with our Youth Talk show. All right, so that's another feature that we'll be having this afternoon for those persons who registered work with us. So thank you again for joining us. I don't see any questions in the chat, so it means that persons were able to garner the information that was supplied this morning. All right, so thanks again, guys, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Thank you.